I am so pleased to be here with you today, Eric. We have had some fascinating conversations leading up to this. And for the people who haven't met Coveware, could you tell us a little bit about Coveware by Veeam and your role there?
Sure, certainly. Thanks, Christine. My name's Eric Lackey. I'm one of the directors on Coveware's incident response team. Coveware, we're a boutique cyber incident response firm. We assist enterprises through ransomware and other cyber extortion events. We have reactive and proactive services that we provide to our clients, all intended to provide our clients with the best outcome possible by providing data aggregation, financial services, as well as technical expertise to ransomware events.
And I'm sure organizations feel very secure when they call you, which is probably on one of the worst days of their professional lives. When they pick up the phone and they call Coveware, what is the first thing that you guys do to help that customer?
Sure, certainly. So one of our primary goals at the beginning is really to make sure that, we can put the client at ease, make sure that they know that they're in good hands. So one of the first things that we're going to be doing is providing intelligence to them about the ransomware actors, what expectations are when they experience this event, and if we're able to identify the ransomware actors who are involved, we can provide them with input from our databases to be able to show them, how long we expect it to take. Are they going to provide the deliverables that we're expecting, workable decryption keys? Have we experienced any re-extortions in the past or any issues, with decryption?
And so sometimes you can decrypt the ransomware yourself inside of Coveware. Is that correct?
That is correct. We do have a fantastic engineering team who's able to, evaluate the encryption that occurred on the data itself. And if we do have the ability to decrypt that, then we don't have to worry about actually paying the ransomware actors.
That's right. And you're also looking at the encryption to tell whether or not it can be decrypted, because ransomware, I heard, is notoriously buggy, and sometimes when it's encrypted, it can't be decrypted. Is that correct?
That's so true. Very often we find that at least there's even a small percentage in almost all events where data becomes corrupted during the encryption process. So we do have our own proprietary software that we're going to be providing our clients, and it's going to analyze every single piece of data that's on the impacted environment to be able to tell them, whether those files are going to be corrupt or whether, they're going to be recoverable or not.
And whether it's worth paying.
That's correct.
If they get to that point.
That's right.
That's super. So when that customer calls you, I know that they're in a very stressful situation. What are some of the most common mistakes that people make?
Sure, certainly. So, obviously organizations, businesses, they want to be able to restore back to normal and get back up and running as soon as possible. So there tends to be a tendency to want to rush to pay the ransom, but when they do that, they often make mistakes, failure to contain the environment. They may not properly identify that they actually had viable backups, or that it maybe just wasn't really worth paying the ransomware actors to begin with. So, one of the things that we always want to make sure that the environment is contained, that it's secure, and that the ransomware actors can't do any, further activity on the environment. So, we have run into situations before where ransomware actors have actually observed our communications with the victims. And obviously, that's not a good outcome to have, and it could, negatively influence how the negotiations are going to go. We've even had ransomware actors attend status update calls with the victim and send us screenshots of the attendees, during the call. So that's obviously not a good situation to go through.
So they're not just encrypting the files, they're also gaining access to the networks and influencing the negotiations, which is a terrible situation to be in.
That's correct. And we even have ransomware actors who call the victims, trying to induce more stress, on them, through this process. On the other hand, we also have other threat actors who are not as sophisticated. And it's hard to even call them ransomware actors. We really call them imposters, because what they're doing is taking data that's already been stolen, been posted on the dark web, and then trying to actually re-extort the same victim for data that was already taken by somebody else. So our databases, we're able to provide, all this intelligence and input to these victims to be able to tell them whether or not, they're dealing with a real actor, what is it a serious threat or not, or if they're actually dealing with a lower sophisticated, just an imposter.